Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Area 312. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rex, along with my other co-host.
Hi, I'm Kent.
And friends, our guest today is the guitarist for the band Latter Rain. Rocks Records has, well, you threw me off when you held that up, Kent. You
Keep
have to do,
rolling, buddy. That was great.
okay.
That was classic.
Rocks Records has released all three of their albums in the last couple of years. He has also just released his solo album, Broken Bones and Bullet Holes, last year. Please welcome with us guitarist Brad Smith.
Hey, Brad. Welcome, buddy. It's an
Thank you,
honor.
Brad.
Thanks for doing this, guys.
Sure. So, Brad, when you were growing up, was music in your home? Did other family members play instruments? What was it like growing up musically?
Um, just my mom was a singer in her youth, and she'd walk around the house and turn everything into a song. And I used to just roll my eyes. And yeah, she just sing, and she listened to Frank Sinatra and all kinds of crooners like that. And so I had a pretty solid upbringing with that kind of music, really good stuff. And then when I was it was probably 78 or so. So I'd have been 10 or so, maybe 9. We had a crazy uncle that lived with us and this is when we lived in Diamond Bar. And so we had this crazy uncle. He was a rabble rouser, and from the best I can recall. And my parents felt sorry for him, so they let him crash at our place. And he, of course, brought his stereo and the headphones with the curly Q wire, and he's sitting there, doing what dudes did in the '70s, to just tune out, just kicking back. And I come walking on by, and he goes, "Hey, come here." He slapped on those headphones, and it was Kiss's first album. And I was just like, what is that? I had no concept. For me at that point, hard music was the Monster Mash song. I looked forward to Halloween because we could pull out our my 45, and I could play Monster Mash, which was about the hardest hitting song I could find. And yeah, so he put that on, and I was like, wow. And about a year later or so, we moved up to Northern California, and he gave me I want to say it was Kiss's first 3 albums or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it was like I know it was the first album. I think Dress to Kill was in there. I think Hotter Than Hell was in there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So that's where it kind of all started.
Cool. And
Shame he didn't
then,
give you Unmaster the Elder, Brad.
What's that?
It's a shame he didn't give you Unmaster the Elder.
No, those weren't out yet. I don't think. I don't think Unmasked was out till what, 78,
I'm
70?
Man, I'm
Yeah,
messing with you.
yeah. But yeah, so that kind of started the whole thing, and and then, as I become a young teen and stuff, I'm starting to discover other things, and I think I discovered um, Sabbath and Ozzy in the early '80s, and then we got MTV in the house. Even though we live in the country, we got a satellite dish. I mean, we were going nuts, and I finally got MTV, and that just blew the doors open. And my mom was pretty concerned. My hair started getting long, and I was being a sultry teen, just like anybody would. And we were a Christian household. We went to church all the time, but that didn't stop me from being a little jerk. Um, you know how it goes. And so I think my mom, she, you know, uh, she's in heaven now, but back then I think she spent every night on her knees, just praying. And so one day she goes into town. In town was a 30-minute drive, and she goes into a Christian bookstore, and must have been a little tiny Christian bookstore. And she goes, "My son is into this rock and roll stuff, and it's scaring me, and I need to find something to get his attention." And they handed her a Striper album, and she brought that home and gave that to me, and that changed the direction that I was heading. It wasn't instant, but it was definitely an eye opener. I went to school and I showed my friends. I'm like, "Hey, check out these guys. They're Christian, you know." And they're like, "What?" And they're like, "No, these guys are cool. They sound great, you know." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do that someday." And they're like, "All right." And so yeah, that was
So then how did that lead to you playing the guitar, Brad?
oh like I said, I was in the country, and we were pretty. We didn't have a family up there and stuff, but one of our family members was, well, let me take that back. So we come visit my mom's twin, uh, and um, and my cousin, who's my same age. Um, he was playing music from a very young age. He's a jazz guy, and currently touring with Lionel Richie. His name is Dino. Um, and so he was a jazz guy. So there were there were guitars in his house. His older sister played guitar, and I think one summer visit, I walked into their playroom, and there was a there was a Gibson, old F cut Gibson, leaning against a Fender amp, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And then at the same time, I think my cousin, uh, she had a Van Halen record, but that really lit a fire too. And so I just started to noodle around. I picked up that guitar, that Gibson. I plugged it into the amp, tried to figure out distortion, and I was like, "That's okay. Okay, that was cool." I think that summer, they had an old guitar lying around, and they were like, "Hey, you want to take that back with you?" I had no amp. It was just an old like Sears and Roebuck guitar, and so they took it, or I took it home. Didn't know really what to do with it. Bought some chord books, I think, and um, then we had this cousin come down from Oregon, I think, and um, or Washington, and came down, and he brought a guitar and a little amp, and he's like, "Hey, check this out." He starts playing like Iron Maiden tunes and stuff. I'm like, "Ooh, you really know how to play guitar. Show me." And so he sat down and showed me a bunch of stuff, and how to figure stuff out. And then he went home, and I took that little Sears and Roebuck guitar, and I just started working on it a little bit. Um, but it wasn't until I think, and I'm not sure the order of things. It gets kind of fuzzy now. It was just a few days ago. Um, but I started a band. I was like, "I'm a singer." That's what I said. "I'm a singer," and because my mom had some microphones and some equipment, so I was like, "I'm a singer. I'm gonna find a band." So I found a guitar player, found a drummer, and which in the country is hard to do. And we all got together, and we're just banging out some songs. I think we did "For Whom the Bell Tolls" or something like that. This is in the mid '80s, and and I had an original song that I just kind of made up a bunch of lyrics, and the guitar player had this riff, and I just yelled over the top of it. And so we were sitting there, and we're taking a break, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, I have an old guitar. I don't really know how to play it very well, but show me something." And he shows me "Rock You Like a Hurricane," I think it was, and so I pick it up, and I was like, "Okay, so it's like this." And I think, but before, in a couple minutes, I think I was playing it as good as he was, or pretty close. And I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And so time moved on, but I think that kind of sparked me to go, "Okay, I think guitar's your thing. I think you stick with guitar first, worry about the vocals later." and just started started playing. And then when I graduated in '86, I moved down to Southern California, bought my first real guitar and an amp, and started from there. Yeah.
So you've talked about a couple bands and stuff, Brad. Who were like some of your musical influences or heroes, back then when you were starting out?
Back then, of course, Ace, and then Oz. I started to figure out who Oz was, and I didn't even know that Michael really did a lot of those leads back then too. I just figured it was all Oz, but it was still very exciting. So yeah, Oz, and then later as the '80s started getting later in the '90s, really became a big Extreme fan. Um, I like Nuno a lot, and yeah, that's pretty much the big ones, and I guess, and then right around, and then the late '80s when Zach joined Ozzy. Is it No Rest for the Wicked? Is that the album? When Zach joined, that was a game changer. That was a sound I wasn't used to. It was just squealy and down-tuned and heavy, and I was just like, that's really cool. I mean, I love '80s guitar riffs, but that was a little different take. It was a little heavier. And then, of course, Black Label came out, I don't know, 10, 15 years later. Yeah. So Zach, obviously, if you can tell from the record, Zach was probably one of my later influences. So yeah.
Okay. So back to Latter Rain. I know that July Cardenas, if I'm pronouncing that right,
Yeah.
asked you to join the band.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit more details of how you came to join the band?
Oh boy. Well, let me see. So I was doing. So this is probably, by this time it's about 1991 ish, and in about '88 ish, I already moved to Southern California. I got in with some friends, and well, first I got in with the wrong crowd, but the Lord quickly uh, turned me around, and started to meet Christian friends. My first Christian friend, I met at school. I went to Chaffey College, and he showed me Barren Cross, and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool! This is not Striper anymore. This is cool." Yeah. So with him, I actually formed a band that we called Promise, and we played our church, the church I started going to in about 1987. I met some girl, and she was going there, and she's like, if you want to date me, you got to go to church. That's our first date." And I'm like, fair enough. Sounds good. So I started going to that church. That became my home church. And I know you and I talked a little earlier about kind of the Christian church back then. It just kind of depended, but the general rule was that it was a bunch of long hairs using the devil's music, trying to cram God into the devil's music. That was the devil's music. That's where it stayed. And I was pretty blessed that my church was kind of split like that, but I think most of the leadership was a little more open-minded. So I was able to talk to them, and they gave us a rehearsal space. It was a furloughs quarters for the missionaries, and we got to set up our gear in there. And then they let us play in the sanctuary and invite a bunch of people and have a little concert. So they were pretty cool. Even though, the first time I show up to a college group Bible study, I rolled up with my Iron Maiden shirt on, and they're kind of looking at me like, "You sure you want to do that?" And I was like, "What's wrong with that?" I've always kind of walked that line where something I'm doing offends some Christian somewhere, and I don't mean any harm, but I was pretty young in my rededication of my faith, so I was, I didn't. I don't think I've worn my Iron Maiden shirt, but I still have an Iron Maiden shirt. I like Iron Maiden. I don't. Yeah, anyway, boy, I really got off
Oh, that's okay.
the rails here, but anyway, part of this band was my best friend, one of my best friends, Christian guy, and it's Dave, the drummer on the first album, the demo, and so he had joined our little band called Promise. We had gotten together, and things weren't really going very far, weren't going very fast. We weren't very good either. We were just trying to figure things out. How does this band thing work? And so he used to get his hair done by July's wife, and so one day he calls me and says, "Hey, and I just got my hair done," and Vicky says that her husband's looking for a guitar player. You wouldn't be interested in that, right? Because you're doing the Promise thing. We're doing the Promise thing, and I was like, "Well, I'll give it a shot." I've been working on some stuff, and the Promise thing's not going very far. And he was like, "Yeah, I know. It's just it is what it is for now." So he gave me their number, and I called him up, and July comes over to my apartment, and I had a little 4-track, little Fostex 4-track, and I just record songs. If I got a riff idea, I'd put it down, work it up and stuff. And so he was like, "Hey, so what do you got?" And I was like, "Well, here's a tape of just some stuff that I've been working on." And he's like, "Okay, cool." And so I think we played a song there, and he's like, "All right, cool. Let me just take this and I'll go show my brother," and which is Lewis. And so they went and they called me up, I think the same day, and they were just like, "Hey, man, can you come rehearse? We want to, we like your songs. We want to actually work these into our songs if if you're okay with that." And I was like, "Well, okay." So yeah, so we started, played for about a month, and then they were like, "Hey, you're friends with the drummer, right? With Dave?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're best friends." And they said, "Our drummer's getting ready to leave. Can you see if Dave wants to step in?" And so the rest kind of went from there. And
Cool.
that was a really good time.
Cool. Kent, you had a question?
Well, Brad had earlier mentioned at the start of that his friend Dave, and I was going to ask if that was Dave Bonovich who played on the first
Yes.
Lather Rain album. Brad, at this juncture, if you don't
Yep.
mind, since
So
we're
he is.
talking about Dave, I know that Dave has passed. He's gone on to be with the Lord.
Mhm.
We wish to respectfully
Yeah.
remember him. Could you just say a few words about Dave? I've never got to meet him or anything, but would like to know a little bit about him.
Oh man. Just thinking about it, it's tough. Yeah, he was my brother. He was a brother I didn't have. So the Lord just put him in my path. We filled a void that was just so needed to be filled. We were both long hairs in the Christian world, playing music, and the Lord just put us together like that. And it was like we had been brothers our whole lives, and we did everything together. We golfed together, we cried together, we did, we were just being silly together. We'd go to concerts, we would go to Fear Not, they were called Love Life. We'd go to their rehearsals and chill with them, and watch them, and Tarjay Blue, you probably never heard of them. They were a Christian band back in the day, and Surrender, and so there was a Christian music scene that was going on, and we were just kind of on the outside of that, just kind of getting going, man. When it's our turn, we're gonna do this too, and so yeah, it was just a real special time, and yeah, so yeah, I miss Dave a lot. He was a great brother.
Well, one day through Jesus the Christ, the risen King, the resurrection, and the life, we'll all get to celebrate with Dave together, who's already seen the Lord Jesus face to face. And I don't say that lightly. I say that respectfully. And we'll all get to worship the King together. So I'm grateful that through Christ, he makes all that happen, So thank you for allowing us to kind of get to know your brother Dave there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and Brad, you had said too that during this time you were just a new believer or whatever. If I could ask, could you kind of talk to us about your journey to Christ and how that came about?
Well, like I said, I was my parents went to church, and they dragged us to church most of the time. And if we didn't make it to church for some reason, my dad would break out the Bible on the kitchen table, and he would read. And so that was just part of our life. That's just what we did. That didn't make me, it didn't make me walk. I kind of had this deal with God when I started, 17 years old, graduated high school, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Southern California and get into the scene, and I just kind of made this deal with God. I was like, hey, God, I love you, but there's a scene going on. When I'm done, don't worry, I'll be back. It's kind of this little deal you make with God. And he was like, all right. So he let me drift just a little bit, and then he puts this girl in my life. And it wasn't my wife, but just, of course, that's what boys see are girls. And it was that girl that said, well, hey, if you want to date me, you got to go with me to church. And God just kind of gently steered me right back into where I needed to be. And so I didn't get down that road very far. And then that just kind of solidified. So that was about 1987. I wrote that date in my Bible. I was baptized when I was a kid. I was probably 11 or 12. But that was 87 was about the time where I really started to focus my walk. And yeah, so that's
okay, cool.
Kind of where.
So you had said that Lewis actually wanted to incorporate some of the songs that you had shared with him for the first album, and in 2022, Rocks Records releases for the first time "Live for the Day" on CD. Can you tell us about the recording of that record, and was that just a demo, Brad, or not? I'm kind of curious about that album.
Well, it was a demo by quality's sake. It was tough. Lewis's his brother. It wasn't even his. It was his former bandmate, Tony, became his brother-in-law later on. But yeah, that he played in Renegade with years back. He had an 8-track. He had a reel-to-reel eight track. So we recorded on his little reel-to-reel 8-track all these songs, and these songs like "Live for the Day," "Nobody's Savior." Those were tracks that I had put on my little 4-track. Those were my songs that I just came up with. There were some other ones too. "Prisoner," I think.
Mhm.
So those were ones that I already had, and Lewis just put words to them. I had a title, and Lewis took that title and just put words to it. But so that's how we kind of approached that. Glenn had some songs, "Serious," I think is "Serious" something, yeah. "Serious" and some songs like that he already had done, and then Lewis had some songs that he converted. They were secular songs ready for his next Renegade album, I think, and he just converted them. Yeah, so we took all these and we put them together, and we just kind of ladder-ized them all, and put out that little demo. And most of the drums you hear on there are samples, because we just couldn't. There was just no way to record a drum set back that with our budget and what we were doing. So a lot of them are samples that Dave did. But yeah, so that was our first and so we put that, we got it mastered. Somehow we scraped up enough money to get it mastered, and we would sell it at our shows.
Okay.
So that was just kind of a tool, and we used it to shop
Sure.
record companies. Yeah.
So then how did the song "Desire" get on the Heaven's Metal Volume 1 collection?
That is fuzzy. I don't
Okay.
exactly remember, but it happened during that time. So we went to, I think, yeah, Larry Worley had a rehearsal studio that he turned into a recording studio, and it was for Love Life was just becoming Fear Not, somewhere around there. It was way back. And then what's his name from Heaven's Metal?
Doug Van Pelt?
Yep, Van Pelt. He somehow got a hold of us, must have seen us or heard us or something, and he's like, "Hey," and there started to be this little. It was kind of like a backhanded compliment for Ladder Rain. It was like, "Hey, they're the best. They're the best band without a recording label." So they'd be like, "They're the best sounding band that doesn't have a record deal." I think it was through our manager. I think it was Wes that had found it, and so hey, come up with a track, and let's put it on this Heaven's Metal. It's how people get to hear your stuff. It gets out there, and I was a big fan of that kind of stuff because what was it, California metal?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
that was awesome. So I was like, man, if we could get on something like that, that'd be great. So yeah, so we did that, and Larry produced that for us, and it turned out great. And that is actually Dave that is playing drums on that, which is why it had to be on that first. Well, it was a timeline, plus it just had to be there. So I wanted people to hear Dave's playing. So that's actually him. And so yeah, so we put that on there, And then we had secured a real studio, and then that's where Latter-ing 2 started. And Lewis wanted to redo Desire, re-record it, and because it turned out to be a pretty good song. Me and July came up with the riff for that, and we were pretty stoked. We were like, yeah, this is a pretty cool riff. And so that song was kind of like the biggest song. And so that turned into, so then we started the process of Latter-ing 2, and I can talk about that if you want to. But
Kent, you had a question?
Sure. While we were at Live for the Day, Brad, really quick, I'd like to ask, I do recognize that Desire has been re-recorded, but this was roughly recorded like in 1992, right? When you joined the band, and this was created.
Yeah, about 92, 93.
Okay. So
is when that was recorded.
What I'd like to make mention, I mean, especially, so the production comes through on Latter-ing 2. You can tell that you guys had a good studio, and the production was there, as well as with Order to Chaos. Now, I love the songs on this album too, but you could tell that it being younger, the budget wasn't quite there, and so the production is a little. I was just wondering, because I love the songs on here.
Yeah.
Have you and Lewis and July and company, have y'all entertained the idea of in 2027 maybe re-recording these songs? Because I would love to hear these songs
done right.
For production.
Yeah. Right. Well, I know Darth, if he were on right now, would be right behind you with that. In fact, he knows about the hidden songs. If Bill's into it, we might see if we can kind of clean that up a little bit. We did a live rehearsal, and we recorded it. And there's some songs that aren't on the demo, and they aren't anywhere. And Darth always reminds me, like, I want to hear those songs done properly. I want to hear those songs. And one of them would be Real Love, and the other one is right. I don't think Real Love is on the. No, it is on that first.
Real Love's on here. It's song number 2.
It's what's the other one that's I can't think of it right now, but it'll come to me. But yeah, yes, we thought about it. We've talked about it. We just keep running into other things that we want to do first, and we feel like we still got stuff to say. So we got our hands in a lot of stuff. Sure. Me and Lewis, we enjoy work. We enjoy working together. The other guys, they don't really want to take the time to do it, and it does take time. So anything that, so we got all kinds of stuff going. I can talk about that too.
Cool.
What were the concerts like around this time, Brad? I know you guys you played with Fear Not, Barren Cross, Guardian, and Bride. Were these at secular venues, I'm assuming, or kind of just what was it like to be on tour at that time with the band?
Well, yeah, tour was not really, I guess I wouldn't use the word tour, but it was play any place that would let us in. And sometimes there were dive bars. Most times they were youth groups in churches. Sometimes they're bigger Calvary Chapel events. Any place that could pay for our gas to get there and give us enough money to eat. We would play, and I wanted to just catch you just on one thing. I don't think we played on the same bill as Bride.
Okay.
We did play with all those other bands. Guardian, Barren Cross, Fear Not, of course. But but I don't think we shared a stage with Bride, best I can tell. But Bride did kind of, I saw them. They were one of the first, up and coming bands that I saw way back in 80, must have been 80, around 88, 89.
Classic years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live to die.
Yeah. I mean, Baron Cross was coming on strong then too. But yeah, one of my buddies that I met at school took me to, he was like, hey, you got to come to this festival. It's called, what was it called? His Fest? Yeah. It was out at Fontana High School in California here. And it wasn't much. They somehow gotten access to Fontana High School auditorium, and a bunch of these bands showed up over the weekend. We just play all day. So it would start at probably noon or something and just go till 10 o'clock at night. And all these bands, I saw Soldier and Neon Cross and Bride and Fast Forward, which you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. They were local band. One of them was my roommate. Yeah, so gosh, I can't even think of all the little bands. I think Sacred Warrior. Yeah, a lot of bands. So that was really cool to see all those bands starting out. But so we played anywhere that would let us in, and we even played at our own churches. If we were just like, we'd talk to the pastor and be like, hey, can you let our band play, and they would. So yeah, so we played as often as we could. Sometimes getting onto I think the biggest thing that we did as far as festival wise was the Praise in the Pines Superfest. That was 92, I think, 93. And I think Fear Not's album had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there. So that was great. We a lot of bands up there. That's kind of when the newer bands were coming on. Precious Death, I think, was one of them. Yeah. So anyway, that was super fun. Great stage that we got to play on there. A lot of bands. It was so many bands coming and going. Just and different kinds of bands. It was a mix of hard rock and pop, and the whole gamut.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you start writing material for the second album, and this was also released by Rox Records. And as I understand it, some songs were written but not totally finished, and then you guys added more songs, if I'm not mistaken. Could you just tell us about how the whole second album came about?
Got to get my notes. First, so Lateran too. Yeah. So when we wrote Desire, that was kind of the bridge, and so this is the development of our own sound. So we said, okay, let's stick to that vein. And of course, we were not only playing with them, but we were big Fear Not, Love Life fans in our own right. And we, of course, Larry was our producer on that song. So we really got to, I don't know, we just, we kind of shared that space. And I started to write with that sound in mind, just a good hard driving guitar sound, little blues based, and a little drop D now and then, that kind of stuff. So Glenn had won somehow a contest, some studio time at the studio in Hemet, which was, if you know Southern California, Hemet is right next to nowhere. So it's tough. But yeah, so we were like, hey, a studio's a studio, so let's go. So we started doing that. I was engaged, about ready to get married. And we started recording, and so we went in and we I think what happened, I think we started, they actually started recording, which is really impressive what they did. So I was on my honeymoon, and Lewis in July. So Dave was sick, so he was out at the time, so he was not playing. Lewis, of course, is a phenomenal drummer. If you haven't heard his stuff, he's great. And so Lewis in July, we'd already practiced all the songs that we were going to record. They memorized the arrangements somehow and went in without me, and just with bass and drums, they live tracked bass and drums just like that. Just Lewis turned on a click for each song, and they knocked it out. So I come back after my honeymoon. I walk in, I've got the groundwork to put all my guitars down. So and I think Glenn was there too to help with the arrangement. I think he was there doing the rhythm stuff along with them, but I don't think he tracked all of it. So I walked in, did it, and I think I got most of the guitar stuff down. And yeah, like you said, there were a couple songs, obviously, Shine Your Light and Dreams. So Dreams was a instrumental song that I had written. I was kind of doing a Satriani kind of thing, and I wrote that, and I gave it to the band, and I was like, hey, check this out. And they really liked it, and they were like, we should just do this as an instrumental track on the album. We don't care, it sounds great. And they used to tease me about it because I wrote it, I was in love, I just got married, and so there was a drum track for it, and so that was down. And of course, Shine Your Light, we just came up with that in 22. That was completely new. So all these tracks sat there because then we got sidetracked, a little ADHD, and we had another opportunity to go to another studio, a more legit studio. Yes, for Order to Chaos. And so I don't know why this decision was made, but it just was made. So we just kind of up and left. we had some good tracks. Lewis had vocals on a lot of stuff that was already done, and there it sat. It just sat there as we went on to work on Order to Chaos. So that was when the industry started to change, and we got together as a band, and we said we gotta change our sound. And so we did the best we could. We listened to what was going on. We listened to some of the grunge and some of the stuff that's going on. Okay, we get it. It's just got to be weird. So that kind of influenced where we were going with our sound, and so we got together and just and we just kind of just banged out these songs, and then we that was probably the smoothest recording process. We just wrote the songs in this short amount of time, and then jumped in the studio and just banged them out. But still, that album never got released back then. So until now they all get to see the light of day. So to go back, I got the tracks for this back when I was talking to Darth. I got the tracks from a guy that got access to the studio, and he downloaded all of our stuff and kind of took it. I don't know, but he just kind of got it from the studio off of DAT tapes. And so I took this and and started working on it way back then when I was talking to Darth, but it wasn't until we started talking to Bill in 22 that, and I had upgraded a lot of my equipment, and so I was much better prepared now to tackle this. So I re-recorded a lot of guitar stuff. Most of the original guitar stuff is still there. Most of Lewis's original vocals are still there, but we still did some extra stuff. I did some more guitar stuff, and then I filled out Dreams. Lewis just said, "Do what you want. Keep it instrumental, or write some music for it. Write some lyrics for it." And so I came up with the lyrics for for Dreams, and Lewis helped me with the melody, and we just made a song out of it. It was yeah, like I said, it was just an instrumental, but we did that, and then of course we started to work on. We were actually trying to rearrange. There's a song that's not on here that we recorded. It was a ballad. This is kind of a fun story. I don't know if it's written down anywhere. There's a ballad that Glenn wrote that was supposed to be on here, and I was working on it. And I tell you a little secret. I don't like ballads. I am not a ballad guy. If you couldn't tell, there's no ballads on here, is there? You find any ballads on here?
No, there's not, Brad. You are correct.
No ballads. Okay, good.
Yep.
They're good. Can't stand them. I had enough during the 80s. It'd be too soon if I never heard Honestly again.
I will stand up for Lady, though. I will stand up for Lady. That was a cool ballad, but it was a guitar-driven ballad.
That's right. That's kind of that's a little classier good guitar ballad. But yeah, so I was talking to Glenn. I said, "Hey, Glenn, can I take a stab at kind of revamping your ballad? I want to make it rock. Still same song, but I want to make it rock." So he's like, "Yeah, man, go ahead." So I sat down, and I was listening to a lot of Revolution Saints. I don't know if you guys know who they are.
Yep.
Yeah. Great project band. And of course he plays drums for Journey now.
Yeah, Dean cool. Is incredible. A singer and a drummer. Yep. I can't believe it. Yeah.
He's a super talented guy. I believe he's a Christian too.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. So I started doing this, and I sent it to Lewis, and he goes, and so I said, "So here's our ballad, updated. Make it work." He writes me back. I think I was in a meeting at work, and I'm in this meeting. I got my phone down between my legs, trying to be cool. And he's writing back going, dude, no, this is a new song. This is not that song anymore. Forget that song. And he's just blowing my phone up, and I'm sitting here trying to be cool. And he's just blowing my phone up, going, "Oh man, this is gonna be great. There's a whole new song." And so there it was. Yeah, with the ballad went out. Sorry, Glenn, but I gave Glenn the writing credit because it's basically his chord changes that inspired me to do this. So yeah, so that's Shine Your Light for you.
Well, very cool. If I could just go back real quick, Brad, I'm just trying to figure out the timeline a little bit. What time frame was the second album recorded? Like 93 or 94?
Lateran 2 was recorded by 95.
Okay. And then when you guys went in with producer Dino Matalone, that was pretty close to that same time frame, correct?
That was about 90, 95 rolling into 96.
Okay. Okay.
And then
Um,
we finished that, put a buttoned it all up, failed to get a record deal, and broke up.
Well,
Yay!
was it tough, Brad?
Yeah,
I wanted to ask, because I was considering the timeline of Latter Rain 2 and In Order to Chaos. And Latter Rain's a what I call a classic metal band from back in the 80s and extremely early 90s, like
right.
91.
Yep.
Um, was it tough? Was it a tough go for you guys? Because from my understanding, and I'm just a small kid from Arkansas, but the grunge wave rose beginning in 91 when Nirvana's Nevermind hit. I gotta imagine it was tough
Yep.
for you guys because you guys were a metal band, are a metal band, classic metal. Was it
Right.
a tough go?
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it was tough. Yeah. It was it was the worst of times.
The landscape changed, man.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was. We just watched our attendance at shows just drop. Um, kids, even the youth group kids, they didn't want to. They didn't want to
Everybody
hear that
wanted to
stuff
be
anymore.
depressed. Nobody wanted a good time.
Right? They didn't want a good time.
Yeah.
I still like a good time,
Don't need nothing
but
but a good time.
right. But yeah, so it was tough, and we quickly turned on each other, and it was not a good time towards the end there, and and then we just parted ways, and yeah, it was tough. Um, and you saw what happened to a lot of bands during that time. It was just
Mhm. Yeah.
just a tough time. Change is tough. Um, and so yeah, that was that. But I'm just thankful that we finally
I'm glad
got
you
it
and
out
Lewis
so
made
people could.
it, man.
Yeah, yeah, we got tons of stuff
Mhm.
going, which I'll talk about later. But
Yeah, we're gonna get there, Brad.
yeah,
Well, though, in 2011, you released your first solo record called Simply Put, and I know that's on your Bandcamp website. Could you tell us a little bit about that? I know it's not like your second solo album musically, but
right. Um, so Bandcamp, that's still there.
yep.
Yeah, it's on. You can get it. Uh, you can you can't get that through Rocks right now. They haven't reissued it. I think Bill was thinking about it, but anyway, you can get it on Spotify and Apple Music, and places like that, and it's on my YouTube page. Which I would encourage people, if you're watching this, go find my YouTube page. I need some followers. I need some people to see some stuff I put on there. There's some videos of me playing guitar, and there's some
Tell them the
other
address.
things that I'll put up there. Um, so yeah, Simply Put was just it was right after my 40th birthday party. Latter Rain got back together, and we played in my backyard at my old house, and so it was kind of so my kids were getting older. My firstborn was born in 2002, so my family was starting, and I was completely focused on that for those years between 96 and probably 2008, just really focused on that. So I didn't play guitar much. I wasn't doing any of that, but um in 2008 we started talking about so we did a little show for Lewis in July. We're going to this church, and so we did a little show for their youth group that went really well. And I was like, hey, that went really well. Let's have a party in my backyard, and we'll play the old stuff, and have some fun. And so we did that. Glenn wasn't able to make it because he lives in Washington, I think, way up there. And of course, Dave had passed, or no, Dave hadn't passed yet, but Dave was still focusing on his health. And no, he hadn't passed yet. But yeah, so he was focused on his health. So we had Lewis's son Nick play drums, and we just had me on the guitar. So we did that, and that was the party that Oz Fox shows up, um, which was really cool. Which really kind of inspired me. Um, Lewis and Oz were doing a side gig where they were doing a kind of a high end cover band where they would get gigs for like corporate events and stuff like that, and they would just do cover songs. And it was working pretty well for them. And that's when Oz lived down here in SoCal. He lives in Vegas now. But so I asked Lewis, I was like, "Hey, any chance you get Oz to come with you?" And he was like, "I'll ask him." So Oz shows up. I don't know if you guys have seen the picture. It's floating around the internet somewhere, but um, you guys know the bullet guitar, right? The one that's on soldiers,
Yeah.
the bullet guitar, right? It's got the bullets on it. Um, Famous guitar. He shows up with that guitar,
Wow.
and yeah, and I've got my newly acquired Epiphone Les Paul, slightly less exciting. And he shows up, takes my Epiphone, gives me the bullet guitar, and he goes, "Let's go." And we start playing Rock and Roll All Night. So we had already done our Latter Rain stuff, and so it was like cover time. So we're doing some covers, and we start jamming on Rock and Roll All Night, trading solos and going back and forth and just having a great time. And as I'm playing his Jackson, my wife sees that I'm falling in love with something else, and she saw that. I mean, from that time on, all I talked about was how great Oz Fox's guitar felt and sounded. And if you, for my guitar player friends out there, you know what I'm talking about. Um, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. The Jackson guitars, especially those made then, were just special. And that guitar just played itself. It was fantastic. And I'll give you guys a tour. Long story short, my wife bought me a Jackson, surprised me with a USA made Jackson. So that was super awesome. And so anyway, but after that party, I was really feeling inspired, and so I got out my music gear, started to dust it off. I was like, you know what? I've never, I had some song ideas that were just kind of kicking around. I'd write things down and stuff, and I was like, that's it. I need to do something. I need to let those things out. I need to put those things down. So I just started putting together songs, things that I wanted to do, things that I wanted to say. And so I don't think Simply Put was finished until 2011. Did it all through home studio, working at home. And like I said, half the songs are sang by a guy named Joe Mizzy. You can find him on Facebook. He's a pretty good singer. I've never met him in person. He lives in Malta. And I used to play with Ginger Baker way back in the day. But he had a great voice, and he offered to I showed him a couple of my songs online, and he offered to sing, and I was like, it was a perfect fit. So I shouldn't have ever done it, because hearing his voice next to my voice is really it's disturbing how good he is and how bad I am. But so anyway, Simply Put is just a collection of ideas that I had. I was still trying to discover, what does Brad Smith sound like without Latter Rain. I wrote an instrumental album years prior, and that's really what I thought I was, just a Joe Satriani he was a big influence on me too. But that's really what I thought it was. And I was like, well, what if I'm a songwriter too? What if I want to like sing some songs and stuff like that? So yeah, so I came up with just some stuff, and you can hear a couple songs on there. Black and what else is on there that have a little bit, you can see a little bit of nod towards what Broken Bones would be. I think there's a couple songs on there. A lot of them are just fun rock songs, just rock and roll. Yeah, so that was Simply Put. I put that out on my own, and just had my own copies made and sold it to family members and stuff, and it really wasn't that big a deal. And then just a couple of years ago, got it onto Spotify. Yeah, cool. So that's Simply Put.
Kent, you had a question?
Sure. And I don't mean to put the cart ahead of the horse, but Brad, you said something and I wrote it down. You were talking about your voice and you said, quote unquote, how bad I am. Brad, you have a wonderful voice. And on this album, not trying to put the cart ahead of the horse, but I made note of this. Your voice is very unique, and I liken it to, I put down, I'm reminded of a mix between Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top and,
oh, wow.
Do you know who J.J. Cale is?
No.
Okay. J.J. Cale, many people know his songs, but they don't know him. He wrote Call Me the Breeze.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
He wrote After Midnight.
Yeah.
He wrote, some people might remember this from the Kansas album, the song Bringing It Back.
Yeah.
J.J. Cale has this very chill, mellow voice, and I mean that in the best sense possible. He is just kind of like Billy Gibbons, man, just a smooth flow. And I think on this album, I classify this as, I'm going to call it Southern metal.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah,
it's metal with a Southern vibe, and I absolutely love that. That's why I love the new Fear Not stuff. I love their old stuff too, but man, their new stuff's kicking. But your voice, it's like, to me, it's a hybrid between Billy Gibbons and J.J. Cale. And it's just it's almost kind of soothing. It's just chill. And what I'm trying to say is it's a perfect blend. And I absolutely love your style. So kudos to you, my friend.
Well, yeah, that's that's an album that had to be done. So I started work on that. If you want to hear the story on that.
Yeah, because I know you had done stuff with Lewis on a Stages album, and you really weren't planning on doing a solo thing. You were kind of like, hey, I've done everything, I can do right now. So yeah, let's hear the backstory, Brad.
Yeah, so I produced. Lewis and I did well, we got the demo fixed up as the best we could. I didn't really take that back to the studio, and then we got Laddering 2. There was a lot of work to be done on that, so we got that done, and and Lewis and I were chugging along really well. We had a really good. It was just like the old days where we could write songs just super easy. We worked super well together. We both have our things that we do, right? And so I'm thinking one day, just kind of just thoughts, just kind of thinking, and I'm like, you know, and I think I was listening to Lewis's solo stuff uh, prior to this, and I was just like, man, I wish I would have helped Lewis with this stuff. I got some sounds that I want to hear with his solo stuff, and I was thinking, I wonder if he'd let me produce his next album, whenever that is. And it wasn't a week later where he hits me up and he goes, hey, I wonder if you want to produce my next album for me. And I said, I thought you'd never ask. Let's go. And it was super fun. So he would send me little snippets that he'd record on his phone. He just kind of sing something into his phone, and he sent it to me, and I'd send him back a produced song, just with all the guitar stuff, and it was super fun for me. I love doing that. I love taking something, just a little grain, and blowing it into a song, and just getting to stretch and do my riffs and do that kind of stuff, and that was super fun. And so we got that done, and yeah, I was just like, well, now what? We're gonna do another Latter Rain album or something? And he was like, no, dude, you got to do your own thing. And I was like, huh? Own thing? I did my own thing. Oh, wait, that was 2011 when that came out. And I had a riff that was cooking around. Well, I had already done Order to Chaos, right? And that was a new song that I came up with, and kind of that song, was, like I said, that was fairly new. And I was like, okay, that's what a new Latter Rain might sound like, So I think I wrote another riff kind of in that vein, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. And then as soon as Lewis said that, it kind of clicked, and I was like, I think I'm gonna take that new riff. I think I'm gonna make it my song, and that became Broken Bones and Bullet Holes, the song. And what was really great about that whole process, God did some amazing things. I just got to say that was a super fun and a painful time. And I'll get into the painful in a minute. When I go to church and I'm listening to a sermon, it's hard. My brain is weird. God gave me a weird brain, and I get distracted very easily. But my pastor, well, several pastors over the years, but my current pastor, Jack Hibbs, when he speaks, he uses interesting words sometimes, and phrases and concepts. And when he says one of these things, I write it down. When I hear something that goes, that makes a great song title, I write it down. So I probably should give him some writing credit on this, because I've been taking some of his ideas and his words and just putting them on my phone, just writing them down. So I've got this list of song titles, and that's how my album was written. Is I have a riff, I put it down, come up with a melody that I kind of heard in my head, and then I go to my phone, I pull out that list of cool song titles and go, that's what this one's going to be called. And that's what happened on Broken Bones. Is I had that title written down for, I don't know, a long time, long time. And I think it was Pastor Jack was talking about how he wants to enter heaven not in good shape. He wants to get busted up. You know, he pictures himself just rolling in and I think he used the phrase of broken bones and bullet holes and be like, yeah, I live for God. I used what he gave me and gave it everything I could. And so I wrote that title down, and then that's what I tried to make the song about was just putting it all out there, man. Not being content with just, hey, I go to church. So yeah, and I think I made a comment on the notes on the Rocks record page and in the liner notes about being a sideline kind of Christian, and I think 2020 and 21 and let's face it, the last 4 years after that just kind of really ripped the veil back, and really you could really I mean, didn't we see some stuff, guys? We just saw evil really rear its head, and it's still not done yet. And it won't be done and until he's locked up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that became the theme of the album. Of course, it became the album title, and that's where most of the songs were kind of inspired from the things that I saw and the things that happened during those years in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, just some crazy stuff, man. The devil's just working overtime, and I got to see how the church, and we got to see the church really kind of exposed. It was kind of a painful time where you got to see. I don't want to speak badly, but you got to see who was real and who's not, as far as the church goes. You know, who's living biblically and is not afraid to speak truth. Speaking truth, that's really important. It's one of my songs, isn't it? Sea of Truth. So yeah, so we got to really see that, and that really inspired me, and that's kind of where it went. You can tell me black is white and white is black while you look in my eyes. Why change your ways and all your thinking? It's so easy to lie. Yeah, you lie. In January of 24, I had this I don't know what you call it, thing called trigeminal neuralgia that I dealt with years prior, and it's just excruciating pain that comes through my face. Can't talk, can't sing, or it can, but it hurts a lot. And it's something I dealt with years prior, and it had gone away. Whether the Lord healed me or not, I'll just believe that he did. And but for some reason he allowed it to come back again. And so in January of 24, I had that come back again, and I couldn't touch my face a lot of times, and it really hurt to sing. So I sat down, and I knew I had to write this album, and the Lord just blessed me as I was crying out to him, going, why is this back, Lord? What are you trying to show me? I don't know, but I want to be free of this. This is not good. I don't like this at all. And I was like, okay, Lord, I know I'm supposed to write this album, so I'm just gonna push through. I'm gonna sing, tears rolling down my face. You know what? I'm just gonna do it. I know this is because the Lord had been blessing me with these songs. Just like I said, and drinking through a fire hose, man. It was like, so yeah. So there were times where I would pick up the mic and just sing through and then walk away, and my cheeks would be wet from crying because it hurt so bad. But I just did it, and perhaps that gave me the sound. I don't know. So yeah. So long story short, as far as that health issue, I believe the Lord has taken it away again. So I give Him the praise for it. I had gamma radiation surgery done, it was just a prayerful time. I had some brothers laying hands on me, and so the Lord did it in a way where I can't tell if it was Him or the machines or the doctors, but it's all Him anyway. He's the one that gave the doctors their brains. He's the ones that made the engineers smart enough to make those things, and so, or He could have just done it with a touch of His hand. I don't know, but I praise Him anyway. So right now it's gone. I don't have to take my meds anymore. My meds were making me a little loopy. So yeah, so that's that. Right around I guess the fall of 24, right after my album had come out, I wasn't experiencing any more pain, and then by the time I got to the surgery part of it, that was in March, I think. I did that, and I went ahead and did it anyway. I didn't have any pain. I think the Lord had already taken that away, but I just went ahead and did it anyway. And I've been pain-free ever since. And yeah.
Brad, really quick, I just want to say I didn't know about your, your illness there, and I'm very sorry to hear about that. I'm reminded, you saying that, it reminds me, a lot of times when I'm on the mountaintop, it's not that I forget about God, but sometimes the Lord takes a back burner in my life. And, usually when I'm going through a hardship, a struggle, that's when I'm clinging to Him. And,
Right.
hearing your story, may this be a reminder and a touchstone of the Lord, your deliverer,
Yeah.
how He delivered you and what He can do. And I know that it's blessed me. I really enjoy this. I know it will bless
That's
others.
great.
And I also want to say that, kind of going back to your style again, the Southern metal, and while there is other bands that have that tinge of the same style, going back to your voice again, what I really like about it, I'm going to use somebody as an example. My wife loves, and I do too, Billy Squier. The
Yeah.
second you hear Billy Squier, you know it's Billy Squier.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I can say the same about Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. I can say the same thing about J.J. Cale. And again, that mesh, but you have your own voice. And
Right.
when I hear a song off of this, I'm like, that's Brad Smith. I think that's extremely important. And so I just want to say again, and all glory to the Lord, especially with this hardship, I know Brad Smith's body of work here on this. And so if I hear a song, I'm going to know who it is. It's not going to be
Right.
the wonderful Baron Cross, or it's not going to be the wonderful Jimmy P. Brown of Deliverance. It's going to be Brad Smith. And I think that's awesome. So kudos again.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
And
man.
I'm going to follow that up, Brad. I don't know, maybe I'm way off, but Kent mentioned Billy Gibbons. I'm going to say, to me, your voice sounds like a mixture between Billy Gibbons and Ozzy Osbourne.
That's interesting.
And I agree with Kent. This is unique. When you hear this, you're like, this is different. This is, not something that sounds like someone else. This album is rocking, and yeah, it's Brad Smith. I'm just going to quickly go down through some highlights of some songs, Brad.
Sure.
The title track, it's kind of bluesy. I think it's the best song to open the album with. I think that is a great opening song to open the album with that, with bullet holes or broken bones and bullet holes. That is the best song to open the album with. It gets your attention right away.
Right.
Troubles Enough has a good bass groove in it all the way through. Lift Me Up is what I call a real toe tapper. Hourglass and Avalanche, that's another kind of bluesy song. In that same vein as Broken Bones and Bullet Holes. Becoming Dangerous, this is probably for me my favorite song on the record or
No
album.
way, really?
Yeah, yeah.
That was just a little fun romp. It wasn't even really supposed to be on the album, but I had this little riff, and I was like, "This is silly," and it feels like AC/DC. I'm just gonna go with
I
it and
like
see what
it.
happens. And it was just it was a
It
silly.
is. I really enjoy that, Brad. And then the instrumental Bondo, that's just a cool, song in and of itself. I'm glad you put an instrumental song on there.
Right,
So
kind of an ode to, yeah. Well, you know the story behind that, right?
yes, but I'll let you say a few words if you would like on that.
On Do you want me to talk about some other songs first, or you want me to go right to
Whatever
Bondo?
you want to do, Brad, just go for
All
it, my
right.
friend.
Well, might be a good time to experiment with my with recording, because I'm gonna show you all these
Okay,
guitars. They have to do with
awesome,
the song Bondo.
awesome.
For those that haven't read, oh, by the way, buy the album. Get it from Rocks Records. I'm really hoping he sells out eventually. Then maybe he'll offer me some vinyl. That'd be really great. But Yeah, I think I tell the story. This album is dedicated to my cousin, not the one that plays with Lionel, but another cousin. And when we grew up, they called us like the Three Musketeers. We were always together, and we had that special bond. Um, and and we all loved, well, my other cousin Rob. He liked the guitar, obviously. I liked the guitar, but um, a loving music was our common bond. My other cousin Dino, he liked the saxophone, but that's we still all loved music. And well, of course, we loved GI Joes first. GI Joes and Star Wars figures were our foundation. Um, but yeah, so my cousin Rob, he was my hard rock, heavy metal guy. We went to Iron Maiden concerts together and all kinds of concerts. We went Striper several times, and so he was actually in, I would say, probably my first, yeah, probably, well, second band. I guess the second band. We formed a little band. He played guitar, I played guitar, and his best friend played the drums. And so anyway, so Rob was kind of like the first guy that really got it when I would play a song. When I learned how to play a song like "Rock You Like a Hurricane," I would call him up. And I'd be like, "Check this out, dude," and he'd be like, "That's amazing." And then I'd learn to play, I don't know, uh, "For Whom the Bell Tolls" or something like that, and he would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so great! I'm going to get a guitar too," So that's kind of how we started. And so he was the guy that I would always go to, and so even this album, he got to hear the opening track. I had written that, I sent it to him, and he was like, "That sounds awesome, dude." So he was always like my sounding board, you know. And then he passed away last year about June. He had a lot of health problems, and that he wasn't getting addressed properly, so he passed away. And that was a really tough blow. So I decided early on that I would dedicate this album to him, and just what he meant to me. And so the kind of the weird thing is that he was, like I said, he loved guitars, and he didn't have any kids, so his kids were his guitars. He collected guitars, and he collected the good guitars. I mean, really cool guitars. Um, and so he used to live down here, and had a storage unit by the beach. And he had just moved to Reno, which is where I believe is where he passed away. And so after that happened, I was talking to his mom, my aunt, and she was like, "I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get his guitars out of storage. You can do whatever you want with them, but I just need you to get them out of storage and whatever else, and see what's in there." And so I was like, "Whatever you want. If you want me to bring you all the guitars, I'll do that. If you want me to sell them for you, I'll do that." She goes, "Do whatever you want to do." She goes, I don't have room for all those guitars at my house. So, so you do what you want with it. And that's fine with me. And so all of a sudden, my house is filling up with these guitars. He had 50 guitars in his storage unit, and some Marshall amps. And so I've been working through that. I've sold I've sold a good amount. Well, probably about 10. I think I've sold about 10 guitars. I've got some up on my Reverb page right now, but so I found ones that I believed I could sell, and that I knew that that I didn't want to keep, being selfish, but I wanted my aunt to have some money too. So she said I'd do whatever I wanted. So I sold it, sent her the money, and then just kept the ones that I felt like were really important to Rob and that he wouldn't want me to just sell. So let me just kind of go this way.
Okay.
We'll just kind of go like this.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start here with the one I already talked about. This is the Jackson that my wife bought me.
Nice.
Cool.
So,
Wonderful guitar.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. And then there's the Flying V Jackson. That's my cousin. And that's a great guitar. It's kind of I think it's like the Michael Sweet shape, kind of. It's got a really long side to it. Yeah. And then here's the ESP guitars right here. Yeah, this works. Okay. So this is Kamikaze George Lynch ESP. I believe it's late 90s, I think. Yep. This is ESP M2. If you haven't seen this, if you've ever watched the Empire video for Queensryche, this is Michael Wilton special. He had a few of these made, and this is one of them. So that's the graffiti ESP. There's that one. And then there's another George Lynch. Me and my cousin were big George Lynch fans too.
Oh yeah.
George, of course, I left him out of the rundown. He was a pretty high up there too. A big Dawkins fan in the 80s.
Yep.
First saw him playing this in the Breaking the Chains video. Latter Rain used to do a cover of Breaking the Chains, and we changed the lyrics around a little bit to make it, Christian. And anyway, so there's a Tiger, the M1 Tiger. And then speaking of George Lynch, this is the Lynch Mob Wicked Sensation guitar.
That is awesome.
It is great. It plays really nice. I think I played incredible. I played it for your listeners, watchers. If we can get that video to work, I did play a couple songs on it. so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. So most of these guitars are Rob's. This is just a Fender Tele, or Fender Tele. Here's my Fender Strat, the one that's on the cover of Simply Put. You see that? This is a LTD. This is the let me see if I can hold this a little better. Not my finger in the way. There we go. LTD, the EC 1000. Really pretty guitar, actually.
Wow.
That's nice. Okay. And oh, by the way, I'm a hunter too. Those are my deer. Some deer antlers down there. You see them?
I was going to ask if the rifle in the corner of your room there, if you use that for recording any of broken bones and bullet holes. If those are bullet holes.
No, I didn't quite get that far, but yeah. So this is a PRS, Paul Reed Smith. This is a Yngwie Malmsteen Strat. It's got the scallop frets. Your guitar player people will know about that. This is a exotic 475, I think, Charvel, made in the early 90s, I think. Really cool guitar. And then back here is see the Flying V there? If you can see it. Also, my cousin published a book of his own guitars.
Nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
He was that serious in his guitar collecting. But yeah, this is a Dave Mustaine. He was with ESP for a while.
Yep.
Back in the day. You can see that. I'm just going to kind of go like this.
I keep expecting, Brad, I need to see a Gibson that has your Broken Bones album cover blazoned across the
that
top.
would be awesome.
I'll get there in a second. Here's my bass guitars. Okay. Get there in a second. Well, down here is the Gibson that you're talking about. This stays right next to my chair when I'm recording, because this is the sound you hear on the record most of the time. Most of the time it's that guy. Great sounding guitar. Great for all of the heavy rhythms and stuff. All right. And then over here, we've got
Ovation.
Ovation. And we have a Schecter Jeff Loomis special. I don't know much more about that. It's a 7-string. I can't play it very well, even though it is on the album a little bit. Here's an 86, 87 Charvel. It looks a lot like a Jackson, and most of your guitar people will know why. Charvel was right down the road from here in San Dimas. Here's another Charvel Crackle. It's really cool. It's got EMGs in it, but yeah, if you can see that. Here's a CM guitar, another 7-string. I know nothing about. It's Duvel. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what my cousin was doing, but I've seen it on YouTube before. People do play this. I don't know. And then here's another Charvel. Lots of Charvels around here. This is actually USA made in the Fender shop. This one right here, because Fender acquired Charvel a few years ago. And here's a BC Rich, very pretty. Cloud inlays there, and that my cousin got from the NAMM show. I don't know much about it. And then this is an Ormsby guitar, really interesting. With see that orange shark? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
The inlay, the frets are kind of funny the way that they're laid out. It's called fan fretting, I think. And this is made in Australia. He had a couple of these guitars. He really liked. And then that's where we do vocals, and of course the wall of amps. And that's about it for the tour of the studio there.
Nice.
kind of know what's coming up because you had sent me and Kent a demo. You're actually working on another album, and the song that you sent us that in the video, there'll be a little clip of it, an audio clip called Mad King. How far along are you with your next solo album, Brad?
Well, that's a little bit different. So it's a pretty slow process. Mad King just kind of came about when I was watching. There's a mini series called House of David, and just kind of inspired by that. And I think you can watch that on Amazon, or is it Amazon? Anyway, so yeah, it just kind of came about. I was just sitting on the couch and playing my guitar, and just came up with a little riff, and it just kind of went from there. And so the process seems a little slower than last time. Like I described, the Broken Bones process was like drinking through a fire hose while dealing with pain. And I don't know, there's something about pain and poetry that kind of go together. So I don't want to ask God for any pain right now, but I appreciate being pain-free, Lord. But you know, there is he does use that. He does use that in in the process, and not just to refine us, but it's part of our creative process too. But so I did start the process just because I didn't want to wait too long, and I don't want it to be another 13 years or whatever before I make another record. I want to keep making songs until I can't. I want to be a little bit more productive, because Lewis, working with him is a really, really important thing, and we work really well together. So he helped me. He basically produced Broken Bones for me, and made some choices and helped out with the melodies and things like that, and told me when something wasn't good enough. He just he had no problem telling me when things weren't good enough. We both do that. I did the same thing for him. I would say, hey, that's cheesy, can't do that. And it's just something that we can do. And it's so funny because he used to he'd call me up and goes, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I just felt like I was really hard on you. I'm like, no, you can't be too hard on me, dude. We are partners in this, and you tell me when something is not good enough, when I'm not doing my best. Yeah, we don't want to use that. We don't want to give people that. So so the new album, I just have it tentatively called Steal from the Devil, and you could probably figure out what that's about. If not, I can kind of fill in what's going on in my head about where that title came from. But I'm just kind of thinking, every time that you do a kindness to somebody, you're stealing from the devil. Every time you present the gospel to someone, you're stealing from the devil. And I think we should do a lot more of that. I think we should. So that's about all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, the song Mad King, I hope you like it. I hope it's in the same vein where I'm going.
Yep.
Okay. Like I said, I've got some other things that are just percolating, and I'm trying to get them down. But Lewis and I have, like I've said before, so this is probably a good time than any to tell you about the other things that we have going. So Lewis and I have a side project called Crimson Hope. Have you heard of that?
Yes. I think y'all put out a Christmas album.
Yep. Well, it's not a whole album. We put out Christmas singles for the last, I think, 3 years. yeah, since we started with rocks, I think, and so we put one or two on a rocks compilation album when they do a Christmas That Rocks album. So we put a couple on there, and so we've got about six or seven, eight, six, seven, eight, I don't know, maybe 8 songs on Spotify, Apple Music, on my YouTube page, Christmas songs, and a couple covers of Christmas songs, but mostly original songs. We hope this year to have a whole album and put that out with rocks. That'd be great. At the same time, Crimson Hope is working on a worship and praise album. So we take that same style that is Crimson Hope, which is just a little bit calmed down as far as the guitars, but still driving. Not real big on the ballads again.
Yeah.
We want driving songs that have guitar and drums and move forward. That drive. So in that same style, we're doing praise tunes, and we just had a session, he and I, a couple of days ago, and I think we have 9 songs right now. We might do a cover of a praise tune or a Christian contemporary song and throw it in there too, just to have it even 10. But yeah, so we got that cooking too, and so that's taking up a lot of time getting that done as well. So kind of dual wielding right now, doing a little Brad Smith and a little Crimson Hope. And like I said, we haven't dipped our toe back into the Latter Rain pool just yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's going to be not too far away where we'll do something, either digging up some old stuff and redoing it, or just forging ahead with something brand new.
Cool. And you said, Brad, that you had a YouTube page. Where can fans connect with you and Latter Rain? Where's some good places to connect?
Why don't I, instead of trying to do it over here, I will send you guys the link and you can somehow work it into the video. Would
Sure.
that be great? So
Yeah.
I'll send you the YouTube for Brad Smith, and I'll send you the YouTube link for Latter Rain, which finally I built a Latter Rain YouTube page where it's all in one place. Latter Rain's been kind of spread all around to everyone's personal pages, but I finally condensed that into one place. And then Brad Smith has been mostly condensed into one place, although I'll throw some videos up of just random stuff, but whatever makes me happy or whatever, I'll put up there. But it's mostly the Brad Smith page is mostly the Brad Smith stuff, and Latter Rain stuff is up there too, just for
and we'll definitely put the Rocks Records website where they can get all this stuff too, Brad, for you.
Everything will
That would be great
in the description.
Okay, yeah, we'll put those links down there.
Okay.
Sure.
And Brad, we're winding down here.
Okay.
What would you like to say to all of your friends and fans, or any words of wisdom you would like to say?
Wisdom. Oh, well, yeah, not exactly Solomon, but I'd like to say thanks. Just thanks for taking the time to listen. There's so many competing things to listen to. And so I appreciate anyone that's taking the time to listen to my stuff. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the feedback. Not for my ego, but it helps me. It helps me to know if I'm going the right direction. And if what I'm doing is even worth doing it, that helps a lot. And self-promotion is not my strong suit. I don't like this kind of stuff. I mean, this is okay, this is fun, but it's hard for me to promote myself. Even going on to Facebook and saying, "Hey, here's my new song," I feel like I'm intruding. Like I'm saying, look at me. Um, so yeah, yeah. As far as words of wisdom, the wisest thing I can say is read your Bibles, people. Read your Bibles every day, every day. Get as much as you can every day. Uh, it's just more and more I realize, especially in the last couple of years, I just realized that that we can't just sit back and stay quiet. We can't just sit back and hope for the best. We need to influence our culture around us, and that doesn't mean running out on the street and shoving a Bible in people's faces. God has put all of us in our area where we do our ministry, and you don't have to jump on a plane and go overseas either. You just need to read your Bible, talk to God, and see what see what He'd like to do in your life, and just be open. And that's what I'm trying to do every day, is just taking God's word and trying to be available, trying to say every day when I wake up, "Here I am, God. Do with me what you will, even if it's uncomfortable. Put me in those places." And so far He has, and I've tried to be faithful. I teach school, and so I have it. Well, I'm out of school right now, which is why you might see I'm a little happier than usual. I'm on summer break, so but the Lord has blessed there. I do a Bible club at school, and trying to be a light there in a pretty dark place. And so yeah, just ask God what He'd like to do in your life. That's the best words of wisdom I can say.
Well, thank you, Brandon. Speaking of that, we always close out our episodes with something we call Message from Home, and it's a scripture verse that we think relates to the artist or an album or song. And on the album artwork of your cover, you have Philippians 1:21 on there. And so I'm just going to read that. And it says, "For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain." And I think we all need to remember that this world is just temporary, and the Lord has a higher reward for us waiting if we just follow
Right.
Him. So thank you, Brad,
Amen.
for your time today. Thank you, friends, for watching, and we're going to sign off now, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
One more thing. We'll see what we can do about getting this shirt.
Yes.
We'll try to
Yes.
put something in the link, and
Okay, Brad. Sounds good. Okay.
We'll get Anchor to get you guys this shirt.
Okay,
All right?
that would be awesome.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, guys.